so we get going. Okay, I want to welcome everyone to our 2021 summer crawl. Today we are focusing on marketing, and we have Doctors Bob Conrad and Lindsay Chichester. Did I say it right?
Chichester.
Chichester. Oh, I was better off the first time. And once again, we want to thank Native American Ag Fund, who is funding this summer crawl. So with that, I will turn it over to Bob and Lindsay. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Lindsay and I have been talking about this, and we want to kind of give you a high-level overview of a very simple marketing plan. And just a caveat up front that these things can be very complex, very in-depth, and very time-consuming. And so what we tried to do today is to give you basically fodder for ideas on how to proceed with a marketing plan, and hopefully generate for you ideas on what you can do to maybe tweak some changes to your business to hopefully drive more profits. So let's begin. All right, so why do we plan? Well, some people say if you want to make the gods laugh, then make a plan. So the idea here, though, is you want to reach a future goal state that's different from where you are now, and that is with respect to your business. And so a marketing plan is really a tool to do that. So we are in a current position with our business. Let's say we're making, $100,000 a year in profit. Well, a marketing plan could be geared to ramp that up to $150,000 a year in profit. So it can be something as really simple as that, or it could be, we want to diversify our products and increase our offerings in the marketplace. So there's all sorts of things you can do for a marketing plan to help your business. But the short of it is we want to be in a different place in a year or 5 years or 10 years than we are today. And it's hopefully a place that is more beneficial to our business, to ourselves, and hopefully the customers that we serve. Why do we plan? We want to basically define what that future goal state will be. Where do we want to be different in the next, year, 5 years, or 10 years? But the other thing, and this is perhaps what may be difficult for some people, is we want to honestly take a look at our business as well and find out what needs improvement. Because I don't know about you, I am a small business owner as well, but I constantly see areas for improvement. And unfortunately, I don't have all the resources to deal with those on a day-to-day basis. But the idea here is, what can we improve upon and, again, reach that future goal state. And it's also a way to focus our limited resources. We're not all made of money. And so some of us have to rely on, very limited budgets for marketing, and especially time output. Social media marketing in particular can be very time intensive. So we want to develop a plan that really acknowledges that we are not made of money, that we do have limited resources, but hopefully we can maximize those in a way that becomes more profitable for us. Another reason to plan is obviously we want to make sure we're targeting our most important customers. You do not want to spend a lot of time dealing with customers that ultimately aren't going to buy from you or utilize your services or whatever the case may be. You want to make sure you are reaching and targeting the customers who will engage in your business and help you along on this journey. We also want to establish benchmarks, or basically, points in time that we want to achieve certain things, whether it's more profit, diversified products, or increased visibility online, whatever the case may be. And so we make a plan to develop that. And at the end of the day, really, it's to enhance accountability for our business and ourselves.
And we also
go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to say, at any point, please interrupt me.
No, I just wanted to add that if someone is interested in also getting some sort of financial loan, the lender may require some sort of business plan or strategy, some of the things that we'll talk about here in a minute. But So keep that in mind as well, that if you are seeking financial assistance, a plan may be very beneficial as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I should add too that when I taught marketing, what a lot of my students were bringing to me were business plans. And I am not a business plan expert. I do have my own business plan. But what I did see from my students that they were being taught in their other courses is that there is a lot of overlap between a business plan and a marketing plan. The one difference I would say is we probably aren't going to spend a lot of time on the financials for a marketing plan, other than perhaps establishing a budget. So that would be one critical difference. But most certainly, if you have a business plan, or let's say you want to start with a marketing plan, you can use both plans to inform or feed off each other, and definitely cut and paste some of your goals and objectives from your business plan into your marketing plan. That's totally legitimate, and I would encourage that. You know, whenever you can do less work, I'm a big fan of that. All right, for a marketing plan, these are 3 very fundamental steps. It's pretty straightforward, although I will say that at every step of the way, you could spend months, if not perhaps years, in the process of each of these steps. But basically, for our purposes, we want to spend some time doing some research. You want to spend some time drafting your plan, and then evaluation. I would evaluate your plan on at least, maybe to begin with, a month-to-month basis. But you may get to a point where you're only looking at your plan every 6 months or a year or so. But definitely, you consider your marketing plan a living document. It will change, and circumstances will change. So there's nothing wrong with that. Again, the idea behind a plan is to set some benchmarks into the future, but expect them to change. Okay, so research. You can spend a considerable amount of time on any one of these components of the research part of a marketing plan. Simply doing a market analysis could take you months, if not years. You can do some very deep statistical work, hire a firm to do all this stuff. For our purposes, we are not going to do that. We're going to try to keep it pretty straightforward and sort of high level, looking at our individual market. Again, this kind of plan is really geared toward a smaller business. But as part of the research, we definitely want to look at who our competitors are. And some people will say, well, I have let's say a neighboring ranch, and we're not competitors, we're friends, but yet they're producing the same product for potentially the same customers. And so, yes, you may be friends, but at the end of the day, you really also have to think of them as a potential competitor, because if they get a big sale that you could have gotten, then that will obviously impact your business. I've done some work with nonprofits, and I would say, well, who are your competitors? And they would say, well, we're a nonprofit. We don't have competitors. I say, oh, yes, you do. Because if you're competing for grant dollars, that's money that you could be eligible for, but somebody else may get. So I think it is, you may not like that word competitor, but definitely consider who else is competing for those resources or customers. And definitely try to include that into some kind of a marketing plan. And I think also critical to the research component of a plan is looking at your potential customers or your current customers. Who are they? Why are they buying from you? What do they appreciate about your operation as opposed to somebody else's? And doing a customer analysis could be something as informal discussions with your customers as they come in and, let's say, buy some of your products. Like, hey, how are you doing today? Thanks for coming in. Just curious, why'd you pick us today, or whatever, and just get some kind of informal data from them on who they are, why they are coming to buy from you, and things like that. Another way to do market research is a SWOT analysis. And Lindsay, you mentioned you had done one of these recently. So if you don't mind speaking to that.
Sure. So when I did my county needs assessment here in Douglas County, we focused on a SWOT analysis for the face-to-face key informant interviews. So I conducted nearly 30 of them and just went through the SWOT analysis during the interview process and asked the people, what they perceived were the strengths of our county, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it was a really helpful way to better understand from their perspective those different areas. And obviously there were some things that rose to the top as the strengths and some things that filtered out in the bottom as threats, but there's a tremendous amount of opportunities that exist within the county for what we can do in extension or just in general, things that we may not have in the county. So I think a SWOT analysis is a great tool. It's not invasive at all. People like to talk, and once they get going, they might not realize that they're actually talking about a SWOT analysis. And as the person behind the scenes, sometimes you've got to filter that out a little bit where each of those things goes, but it's a really nice way and a nice tool to use, I think.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to, in my opinion, honestly, looking at your business or organization and finding where you are doing a great job and giving yourself a pat on the back, but also looking at, maybe we're not so good at customer relations or, in my case, anything having to do with numbers or financials. My brain turns to mush. So I hire people to, I have a bookkeeper and an accountant. So hopefully they take care of that for me. They do a wonderful job, and it drives me a little less crazy having to think about those things. So yeah. So a SWOT analysis.
I have a question
Yes.
here on a SWOT analysis, Bob and Lindsay. If you were a very small business, and let's say you're an agriculture business and you want to expand, what would be the first steps in beginning that SWOT analysis?
Well, I think honestly assessing what you're good at and what gives you leverage to expand. And if you have let's say a sample business in mind, I could be a little more specific, but really I think the first step is saying, hey, we are poised to expand because of these 3 reasons, but what's holding us back? So I would really start with that.
Yeah, and I would also, we're always biased when we try to analyze ourselves. So if there were trusted people within your circle that you could have this honest conversation with as well, and have them try to help identify what they saw as some of your SWOT points. Because maybe you have, unlimited places to store hay or access to summer pasture off of your ranch. You might have some opportunities that exist that you hadn't really thought about. So, taking a hard look at your own business, as well as asking some of your trusted friends or family members to help you do the same. Because I think there's, sometimes we just don't always see things that are obvious just because we're focusing on something else at the time. So just to step back and look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, and I really think to answer your question, Stacy, the market analysis and competitor analysis and customer, those are areas where I would start too. But yeah, I think you could start with a SWOT analysis too. But I think it like Lindsay says, it's critical to get external feedback. So listen to your customers, listen to your family members, listen to your friends. What do they say? What are their needs, and what are you doing well? Take yourself out of the equation and get some external feedback. I think that's also a very healthy thing to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the market analysis can be super technical. Again, for our purposes, we are going to keep it pretty simple. Look at the overview of your industry. Here in Nevada, the Nevada Department of Agriculture does a annual report sort of on the state of the economics of the ag industry. And I actually consulted that for this presentation just to see what kind of information they were still putting out there. And that to me is a great resource. It is free, it's online. You can go take a look at that and at least get an idea of what the Nevada ag industry looks like right now or within the last year or two. I think they have to play catch up with some of the federal data that they look at, but that's an excellent resource. But again, also your competition and also your target market or your customers. And I included a little link down here below. So at your leisure, if you get this PowerPoint, or I can include this in the YouTube video link as well, you can visit this URL and look at some steps for a market analysis that's maybe a little more informative than we can cover today. So Lindsay, I don't know, do you want to talk about this as a potential hay market, as a sample thing you could develop a marketing plan around?
Sure. So to give a more specific example, we're going to just talk about hay and some of the factors that influence that today. And so we know that the market for hay is definitely healthy and stable. While we're still recovering from the COVID pandemic, we're also in a severe drought, which is a complicated factor that plays into this. So there may be competitors nearby, customer demand is stable, but what else is at play? So we know that a lot of irrigation water is done for the year for people. So unless they're able to provide well water or be able to another water source, they may have only gotten 1 or 2 cuttings of hay. So there's not as much there as there was. Prices are going up, or there's just not as much hay for sale because people are retaining it rather than selling it. So amongst all those variables, how does someone differentiate or diversify what they have to be a relevant player in the hay market right now? So looking at how they can be unique and look for those opportunities that exist, and we'll touch on what some of those might be. But we know that the hay market right now is a hot place. If you're selling hay, if you're trying to buy hay, it's a challenging place to be.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Now, another resource that you may look into for this example is in terms of diversification is Tom Harrison, the University Center for Economic Development. They've done a number of studies on this. And the one presentation I remember of his years ago that he gave was about a ranch that had added onto its operation a dude ranch so that they could capture some tourism dollars. And people could come and stay at the ranch and sort of experience the ranch life. And I thought that was an interesting example of how you can diversify an operation. All right, so the planning steps, these are sort of one of my favorite ideas about how to do a marketing plan is what's called GHOST, or G-O-S-T, which is goals, objectives, strategies, and tactics. And to me, these are the building blocks or the foundation for a good marketing plan. And by the way, you can use these for, financial plans or, a regular business plan, whatever the case is. So these are not just for marketing. You can use these in all aspects of business planning or organizational planning. And I really love, there's different ways to approach this, but I love the GHOST acronym. For me, it's easy to remember. And I've also included here a video on GHOST, and it's about 2 minutes long, and you can watch it. And he really goes over how each of these are different. And I'm going to do that right now as well. So we've touched upon this. A goal really is your desired, very broad or generalized state of being. And I would add here, what is the one thing you can do better than your competitors? And let's say you live in an area where everybody's growing hay and it's all high quality. Everybody's, has a business and is doing pretty well. But you can differentiate a little bit and say, we want to be Nevada's most customer-friendly hay grower. And you want to be really centered on who your customers are and perhaps your employees as well. And we'll talk about the people strategy here in a second. But this is one way you can differentiate your operation from others, even if you're very identical in a lot of ways. And this is why when you say visit a large city and you see multiple chain coffee stores literally right across from each other, or maybe even on the same city block, they're not sweating their competition necessarily because they're each offering something a little bit different. It might be a Pete's versus a Starbucks, and who's loyal to one and the other and why. So, there's competition is a good thing. And the idea for a good marketing plan and becoming entrepreneurial is how do you make yourself different from your competitors? And in our example, I picked most customer friendly. We're going to be really customer centered. And the next step of that GHOST acronym is objectives. And objectives and goals often, I hear those confused a lot. And I personally use them interchangeably, but when I'm being more formal, I think it's important to note that an objective is more specific than a goal. It's also gearing us to be in a desired future state that's different from now, but it's a very specific thing. An example is, okay, if we're going to be the most customer-friendly hay grower in Nevada, one way we can achieve that in our minds is to increase positive customer reviews of our business by 25% within 1 year. And you'll notice it's a very specific statement, and I'm following the model that an objective should be SMART. And if you see on the right here, SMART means specific, measurable, achievable, or attainable, realistic, and time bound. I think that still looks correct. Is that we had to change this last minute? Lindsay corrected me. But if you analyze a very good objective, it should be actually relatively simple, but it should include all of these components. This particular objective is very specific. It's measurable. We can determine within a year what has changed. We have more positive reviews of our business online, for example. And it's also achievable and it's realistic, meaning this is not out of reach for a lot of businesses if you want more positive customer reviews. But I would argue also it should be a little bit challenging. So you have to work toward this objective, and it's time bound. We have a year to complete this. So I think that's important to note, that a good objective should be SMART. And I think this is a pretty good example of what we could do with that. So again, we're going from goals, objectives, and now we're on to strategies. Strategies are the general things you are going to do to achieve your goals and objectives. And your strategy should really relate to your goal and objective about being a customer-centered hay grower, as our example is today. So in the marketing world, your strategies really follow what's called the marketing mix, or historically it was the 4 Ps and now it's the 5 Ps. And those are price, promotion, product placement, and people. And again, I've included another link here so you can look at each of these in detail. And we're going to talk a little bit, kind of high level on each of these, but these are things I think most businesses should consider. And you may want to focus on 2 or 3 of these, or perhaps all of them to some degree. But in our example, if we want to be customer friendly, we might want to focus on people and our customers. And because of hay and the situation here in Nevada, product development is going to be a big concern as well. So pricing is very straightforward as how you're going to price your product. If you want to go down a really geeky marketing rabbit hole, just Google pricing strategies on Google, and you can just read pages and pages of different ways you can do pricing strategies. And I've only included a few here. Loyalty programs, buy one, get one free. You see those at pubs or bars a lot. Cost plus pricing, dynamic pricing, bundle pricing. So a couple examples of those is if you go to Walmart and they say, hey, do you have your loyalty card? And we can, scan your card and you get 15% off your purchase, or whatever the case is. Those are very common, and it's a way for Walmart to track your purchases, maybe not necessarily tied to your name, but they, this person comes in and they buy this. And so we'll send them an email saying that this product is on sale, and it can be very sophisticated. But let's say you're a small grower, your loyalty program may be very informal. If you have regular customers, consider giving them a discount of 10% every year. But new customers pay that extra 10%. So that could be just a very simple way of doing it. And here the U.S. Chamber has a link of other pricing strategies that you can consider as well. So promotion, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because any one of these aspects of marketing could be an entire course, if not an entire degree. the university here has a whole advertising and strategic communications program that, in my opinion, really falls under the promotional strategy component of marketing. They also have public relations, and email marketing is a whole different world. Search engine optimization. How well does your website rank in the online ecosystem? Are you on page 3 of Google or page 1 for your desired search terms? So each one of these you could really just spend a lifetime exploring. But to me, promotion is a lot of the fun stuff. It's what a lot of people consider marketing to be. But really, I think a lot of what we're covering in this presentation is really, in my opinion, more authentic marketing. Whereas when you meet let's say a social media strategist, that is one component of marketing. And it's a pretty wide and diverse world. So Lindsay, you want to take this one about product development?
So product is interesting because you need to know the benefits for your customers. And we know that the drought is causing some scarcity or increased prices, but how to diversify. So some of the things that specifically we see here in Douglas County is teff hay. So teff is normally lower in glucose or sugar, and it's really sought after for a lot of horse owners who are, their horses maybe having a health problem and they need to find a low glucose hay option. Teff fits into that plan nicely. So trying to find producers that are interested in growing teff to meet those needs. Douglas County also has a really prominent weed-free hay program. And so it's certified of a lot of Nevada's noxious weeds, nuisance weeds. And so just if you're feeding it, then there's no weed seed transmission through manure, or there's not supposed to be. So it's really sought after to maintain a lot of weed free and the elimination of weed seeds. Something also that I just learned about recently, one of our growers here in Douglas County decided that he put the pencil to paper and calculated what it was going to cost him to put his hay up. And he decided just to sell the hay in the field. And so he sold it at a discounted rate to someone, and then they came in and cut it, raked it, baled it, and hauled it off for a rate that was compromisable or comparable for both of them that they were both happy with. So I thought that was a really unique strategy and something that fits both the seller and the buyer into their plan. So that was an interesting thing to hear about, because I hadn't really heard about that happening before. So there's just lots of opportunities. Know what your product is and how you can sell it and meet those needs of people looking for it.
I think that's brilliant. We were talking about that earlier, and I don't know why, but that idea just is awesome to me. So, and another one, I want to skip back a couple slides here. The BOGO, or the bundle pricing. Some of these pricing strategies. My wife is a horse owner, and she used to buy from a hay grower, and I think if she bought a certain amount, they were also beekeepers and produce their own honey. So if you bought a certain amount, they would throw in some jars of honey with the purchase. And I thought that was another cool idea as well. So it also had kind of that local ag flavor that people like to support local operations.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually also ties into what you just mentioned, Lindsay, is where will people purchase or engage with your product, and how will they do so? And it sounds like this entrepreneur had a cool idea, which is, where you come to my farm, but you got to cut it, and then you can get it for a better price, or whatever the case is. So again, you can spend a whole lot of time on Google looking at place strategies for the marketing world, and maybe apply them to your own situation. Okay. So people, I do want to spend a few minutes talking about the people strategy or customer focused strategy. And has anyone on the presentation purchased shoes from Zappos? Have you, Lindsay?
No, I never have, but now I'm going to go check it out because of the story you told me here.
Yeah, I do all the time. I get my order within the next day. It's amazing.
Okay, so what happens when you buy them? Let's say you don't like it.
So then you just send it back and they pay for that too.
Pretty cool, huh? In
Yeah.
the early days of Zappos, so Zappos at zappos.com, in the early days of Zappos, they actually included the return label. So you did not even have to go through the process. You could just drop your shoe. You could wear your shoes for a week or a month or whatever, and then drop them in the box, slap the label on, drop it off at UPS or whatever. And you would get the refund or a credit on your account. And to me, Zappos is one of the best examples of a really customer-centered business. Unfortunately, the former CEO of Zappos did pass away in the last year, quite tragically, but he was quite a visionary about taking his business idea. And by the way, he's on record as saying he had zero interest in shoes. I think he said in one interview, he only owned 3 pairs of shoes. But his whole idea was we can make a business profitable by becoming customer focused. And if you know of Zappos, if you've purchased from Zappos, you'll, or even just Google the word Zappos, you can see that Tony Hsieh, who was the CEO, ended up selling it to Amazon because it was such a profitable and viable business that it was just, in my opinion, very successful. And a lot of it was because of his customer-focused strategy. There's a video online you can watch of one of his customer service representatives talking about how she had to be on a phone call with a customer for like 4 hours or some crazy thing. But they were so focused on their customers and making sure their customers were happy that they really just, in my opinion, kind of transformed this idea of the people strategy and really kind of placed it as a premium for some businesses. And by the way, not all businesses will want to do this, but to me, it's one that I'm personally pretty jazzed about. So,
has Amazon kept that customer service philosophy for Zappos?
I purchased from Zappos a couple weeks ago, and Vicky, and I did not like the shoes. And so I wore them for about a week and realized they were hurting my back. And so I went online, I went into my account and said, yeah, I want to return these. And sure enough, I got an email within a minute. And all you had to do is put your shoes in the box, take it to, I think it was a UPS store, and then they have the QR code in the email. You just show them your phone, they go pink, and you're done. So yes, yeah. So it's very convenient for the customer. And, you know, I would also argue that Starbucks is another good example of a people-centered business, because why do people go to Starbucks over your local mom and pop coffee shop in any given town? Because they know where they're going to get. It's the same almost everywhere, and it's super convenient. Drive-throughs all over the country.
And they're so happy. They're always like your best friend handing you some coffee. It makes you feel good.
Right.
And if you're in a hurry, you order and pick up and go. And
yeah.
So I love the people strategy, and anyways, I'm happy to present it to you. So as part of this plan. So actually we're kind of nearing the end here. And this is something that we just threw together for you as an example of how you can take some very basic ideas about marketing and create a one-page marketing plan. The one thing that's not really in here is a budget. So, you know, you may want to designate a few $100, few $1,000, tens of whatever you can afford into your marketing efforts, or what makes sense for you. But basically speaking, this is what a one-page marketing plan could look like. We have our market analysis. We've already talked about that. We know that the market is stable, but the drought is, kind of monkey wrenching some of our business if we're a hay grower. Customer demand is stable, but we do have a lot of competitors nearby. But we can differentiate ourselves from the rest of them by being so customer focused that no customer is going to go away unhappy from our transactions that we have with them. So here's an objective that we already talked about. One way we can measure that is by increasing customer reviews of our business online. And you see that's really popular in this day and well, I would say in about the past 10 years of people leaving customer reviews on Google, Facebook, and Yelp. In fact, frankly, it's weaponized a lot too, and especially in larger cities where if people don't like your politics or whatever, they just go on and give you a 1-star review on Yelp or whatever. But there's ways around that. And I'll give you an example. I used to go to this restaurant here in Reno, and at every table was a little card that says, please scan this and give us a review. And the owner would come by and hand you a coupon for a free ice cream dish, and says, same thing on that coupon he gave you, please give us a review on Yelp. And I went on Yelp and I saw he had hundreds of reviews, and just that act of giving a coupon, and he didn't ask for a positive review, he just said, please give us a review on Yelp. He was averaging 4.5 stars with hundreds of reviews, and that's going to place him higher in the Yelp platform of being a highly ranked business in Yelp. And so I thought that was a very genius strategy. And he wasn't bribing them. He didn't say, give us a positive review. He just said, give us a review and here's a coupon. And I thought that was just a genius strategy. And it's very hands-on, very direct. So strategies for our business plan, we're going to focus on people. We've talked about that. We're going to look at pricing, and we're going to really consider our product, which Lindsay talked about. And again, I use the example of bundle pricing. It could be, let's say, a free jar of honey with the purchase of however many bales of hay, or organic beef. I don't know, whatever you can manage or what makes sense for your operation. So we've already talked about the crops and that kind of thing. We didn't really talk about tactics, but to me, tactics and strategies are very similar, with the difference being, let's say your strategy is your product, but your tactic might be the very specific thing you're going to do. It's going to, you're going to start planting diverse crops, or perhaps, if we're in a low water year, it might make sense to switch to a different kind of crop that could, let's say native seeds or something that can help rehabilitate the land after a fire, whatever the case is. So that is basically it. Oh, and then your evaluation. Revisit your goals and objectives periodically. Did you reach them? Why or why not? And if you did, then make your objective more challenging or add more objectives, such as increase sales. And if you did not reach your objective, then find out what went wrong and make changes as necessary. So that is all we have for today. And I would love to have more of a conversation for anyone who has questions or just ideas or thoughts about this.
Excellent. Thank you so much, both of you. We got Avita on a little bit late. So Vid, this has been recorded, so you'll be able to watch the whole thing once we get that ADA compliant with FOB. And so I don't know, Alvita, if you have any specific questions right now?
No, and sorry I got on late, but I'll check it out when it's posted.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. We have people all over because of summer. So this has been recorded. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.